Good morning. I'm in my kitchen this morning because we're going to think about buoyancy. That's the word that means things float or how they float, how well they float. So I have a cup of water here and we're going to try a few things. First of all, I have, you see that? A butterscotch hard candy. Next I have an almond. Try that. I have an Oreo cookie. One of my favorite things, a chocolate chip. And last of all, I have a marshmallow, just a mini marshmallow. Okay. So, let me see if I can take the tablet off here. And you can take a look at what's happening in the cup. Okay, the cookie just went down. It was floating for a while. As you can see, the only thing that's left floating is the mini marshmallow. In today's story, it's really important that something float. It's actually a matter of life or death. So let's get right to the story. Before we go on to today's story, let's take one more look at Joseph. What a story that was. Coat of many colors, father's favorite, brothers jealous. He had dreams where his brothers bowed down to him. That made him even more angry. They threw him in a pit. They sold him to a caravan of traders going to Egypt. Got a good job at first with Potiphar, who was chief of the officers, guards, and everything was going well. Potiphar put him in charge of his house, but his wife asked him to do something he shouldn't have done, and he did not do it. As a result, he was thrown in jail anyway because Potiphar believed his wife. Two people had dreams. He interpreted their dreams in jail. Later, he interpreted Pharaoh's dreams. Remember, Pharaoh dreamed a strange dream that 7 skinny cows were eating up 7 fat cows. 7 scraggly grain stalks were eating up 7 healthy grain stalks. No one could interpret the dream, but Joseph could, with God's help, of course. So the Pharaoh put Joseph in charge, only second to him. Big storehouses were built, so during the good years, they could store up plenty of food for those bad 7 years that were coming. As it turns out, Joseph's family wasn't doing so well. They were living in the wilderness. They weren't having the good things of Egypt. Egypt has a very special river. This is called the Nile River, twice as big as our Mississippi River. It has the delta where all the really good, rich soil ends up. They have cattle there. On either side, they can irrigate, they can grow things, and now they can store things for those 7 bad years. Well, as it turns out, Jacob, Joseph's dad, sent his brothers to Egypt for food. They were in bad shape. After some trials and tricks, we know the story. Joseph finally did forgive his brothers. It was a lot to forgive. God helped him to do that. And he invited his whole family, including his father and his little brother who didn't come, Benjamin, to live in Egypt. Now, many other Hebrew people were going to live in Egypt also. As I said, we have this wonderful river. We have Joseph, very organized, in charge. Things are going well. And so oodles and oodles of foreigners to Egypt, especially Hebrew or Israelite people, came. Finally, at the end of Genesis, when all was going well, Joseph died. The Pharaoh that was so good to him also died. A new Pharaoh was in charge. He looked around him and didn't like what he saw. There were too many of these Israelites. They were so healthy. They were prosperous. They were spreading everywhere. And it made him afraid that someday they would take over. So he made them slaves. Now we know that Egypt was a really special place. We know about the pyramids, where the pharaohs were actually buried. We're not sure, we don't think that the Hebrew people helped to build the pyramids, but the Bible does tell us that they helped to build two great big cities where they stored things. So they were living a really terrible life. Pharaoh looked around again. Even though they were slaves, they were still doing so well. How could this happen? This was a real threat to him and to Egypt. And so he sent out a decree saying that all baby boys, Israelite, Hebrew baby boys, should be thrown into the Nile River. How horrible. There was one woman, a Levite, a Hebrew Israelite woman and her family. They still had their baby boy. He was getting older. His cries would be getting louder. This would be getting very difficult. So she had a plan. She took some tall reeds that grew along the Nile River, just like we might see growing along the Chesapeake Bay or the South River or the Southern River here. And she wove in and out to make a very secure basket for the baby. She took pine tar or pitch, sticky stuff, and put it all in between that woven area, every woven area, so there would be no holes. It would be completely tight sealed. And she laid the baby in there. And then she put the basket in some of the reeds at the Nile River. What on earth was she thinking? It must have been so hard for her. Well, it just happens that one of the princesses to the Pharaoh would bathe near that part of the river every day. And when she came down to the river, she saw the baby, and she thought he was beautiful. She named him Moses, which means drawn out of the water. Now, the baby's mother had instructed Miriam, his older sister, to watch close by. And so here we have this in your Bible. We'll be reading this if you have the Growing in Faith Bible. And here's Miriam watching, and she said, "Oh, do you need someone to take care of the baby, to nurse the baby?" And the princess said, "Well, yeah, I do." And so Miriam said, "Well, I know someone." And so she took Moses back to his real mother, who nursed him and took care of him. When he was older, he did go back to the palace, and he was raised as the Pharaoh, with the Pharaoh and the princesses, as one of them. So God really took care of things here for a while. But stop there. In your packet today, you have a little pack of hot chocolate and a little card. Remember the experiment we did with buoyancy and floating? On this card it says, as you are sipping your hot chocolate and watching the marshmallows, remember, as the marshmallows are floating, Moses was floating in the Nile River. God was with him, he's with you. And our memory verse at the very bottom is, God said, I am with you, and it's from Exodus. Quite a story. God is with you.
Welcome to Bible Trivia. This time we'll be asking questions about water. The first question for 100 points. At the Last Supper, what did Jesus wash? Was it A, his hands, B, the disciples' feet, C, the plates and cups, or D, the disciples' hands? The answer is B. At the Last Supper, Jesus washed the disciples' feet. The next question for 200 points. How long did it rain for during the flood that Noah experienced? Was it A, 150 days and 150 nights? B, 40 days and 40 nights? C, 30 days and 30 nights? Or D, 7 days and 7 nights? The answer is B. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights during the flood that Noah experienced. The next question for lots and lots of points. Who stepped out of a boat to walk on the water toward Jesus? Was it A. Andrew, B. Peter, C. James, or D. John? The answer is B. Peter stepped out of a boat to walk on the water toward Jesus. The next question for a total of 1/2 of a point. What kind of water did Jesus offer to the Samaritan woman? Was it A. fresh water, B. salty water, C. sweet water, or D. living water? The answer is D. Jesus offered living water to the Samaritan woman. The next question for 500 points. On what day did God create water? Was it A, the first day, B, the second day, C, the fifth day, or D, the sixth day? The answer is B. God created water on the second day. The next question for a supercalifragilistic number of points. Jesus was baptized in the water of which river? Was it A, the River Jordan, B, the Dead Sea, C, the Sea of Galilee, or D, the Mediterranean Sea? The answer is A. Jesus was baptized in the water of the River Jordan. The next question for 1,000 points. Including Noah, how many people were kept safe in the ark? Was it A, 2 people, B, 4 people, C, 6 people, or D, 8 people? The answer is D. Including Noah, 8 people were kept safe in the ark. The next question for 12 points. How did Moses divide the Red Sea so the Israelites could cross over? Did he A, lift up his hands and shout aloud, B, strike the sea with his rod, C, walk into the sea and command it to stop, or D, lift his rod and stretch his hand over the sea? The answer is D. Moses divided the Red Sea so that the Israelites could cross by lifting his rod and stretching his hand over the sea. The next question for 800 points. Who did Pharaoh's daughter find hidden in a basket in the Nile River? Was it A, Noah, B, Moses, C, Elijah, or D, Joseph? The answer is B. Pharaoh's daughter found Moses hidden in a basket in the Nile River. And the last question for double your current points. Why did the Lord want to destroy man by flood? Was it A, because man was too strong, B, because man was too wicked, C, because man was too smart, or D, because man was too nice? The answer is B. The Lord wanted to destroy man by flood because man was too wicked. Thank you for playing Bible Trivia. We hope you'll play again soon.
We've been talking about creation these past couple weeks, and we said God continues to create things. So I just want to share with you two new creations. These are my two new puppies. This is Luke, and this is Louie. And right now they're being pretty good. They're just kind of chewing on some things, but they've got a lot of energy and they keep me busy. Oops, there goes. Here, you want to come back here? Come back here. Come back here. So I can see you just a little bit. Okay? All right? You're a good boy now. Just want to share them with you. God's creation goes on in a wonderful way.